Good evening. My name is Shannon Kersey, and I am the very proud principal of Alfredo High School. I'll welcome you all here this evening for our Universal Remote Learning Curriculum Night. This evening we are virtual. Usually this is one of the most exciting nights of the year as our campus is filled with eager parents wanting to meet their child's teachers. We're not seeing that tonight, but I do know there's lots of parents out at their homes still eager to meet your teachers. So you'll still meet your teachers and you'll still learn more about the specific course that your child is taking. However, this year the meeting will be a video. So I do want to make sure that everybody knows how to access your teachers' videos. So you will go to our website. You will scroll across the top, or you look across the top, you'll find where it says staff, and then you'll look down to the left, you'll see directory. Once you click on directory, you'll actually scroll down to find your teacher's name, and then you'll click on the website link for your individual teacher. And most of you have 4, 5, or 6 teachers at Alfredo, so you'll do that several times tonight, just like normally you would go to each of your teachers' classrooms for 7 to 9 minutes, and then we'd ring the bell and you'd walk to the next class. This year we really invite you to take the next 30 to 45 minutes to really focus on your child's schooling this year, their classes, and do watch all of those teacher videos. Each of your teachers is passionate about their content area and has spent time developing their videos so that you can get to know the teacher better and you can get to know the course content, what your child is learning with that particular teacher. Once you find your teacher's name, you will click on where it says view website. So that's an example there for you where you will click on that teacher's website. And then once you get to the website, each of our teachers has conveniently placed on the home page of their website a nice big easy button, the red button that says Curriculum Night 2020, and you'll click there. And then that will take you to your teacher's video. We do hope that it'll be easy for you this evening to navigate each of your teachers' classrooms. I look forward to hearing back from you that you were able to meet your teachers and access those videos. Again, website, directory, locate your teacher. Once you find your teacher's name, you will then click on View Website on the right-hand side. Once you do that, it'll bring you to your teacher's home page of their website, and you'll see the big red button that says Curriculum Night. Click here. What I'm going to do tonight is really twofold. One, I'm going to talk to you about the Universal Remote Learning Guidelines. Grading has changed significantly during Universal Remote Learning, and I'll explain that to you. And I will also go over the common syllabus. There is so much that is common among how our teachers are instructing and how they are asked to grade, that I'll go over that for everybody so that your teachers don't have to do that for you and you won't have to hear that 4 or 5 or 6 times. So first of all, I do want everybody to know that our district provided all Fulton County schools, all teachers, all administrators with universal remote learning grading guidelines. We received these during pre-planning in August, and these were pretty significant. They were very different. And that is why the superintendent added a week to pre-planning so that all of us at the school level could learn all of these new guidelines and that we could start rethinking how we were going to teach our classes. So the grading guidelines and expectations are different. I have received some communications from students and parents that are questioning why things are different. this year in terms of how teachers are instructing as well as grading. And that is why, because it is universal remote learning, and our district has asked us to make adjustments. And this has been quite significant for our teachers. And therefore, it's going to be quite an adjustment to students as well as to our parents. Just as a reminder, I did talk about this during Information Day. We are in universal remote learning, and all of our students are virtual right now. Even when we move into phase 3, the majority of our students each day will still be virtual. During universal remote learning, teachers are asked to have 10 to 30 minutes of synchronous instruction daily. That's when your child is logged into the computer and the teacher is also logged in, and you are interacting with each other. So we're asking for 10 to 30 minutes of that every day. The class period is a total of 45 minutes, and so that leaves 15 minutes of asynchronous learning daily. That is a time when the student could totally walk away from the computer, not have to be looking at the screen. They're still engaged in learning, perhaps working problems, perhaps writing an essay, but they don't necessarily have to be working with the screen. Now, something that I've noticed and that you've probably noticed is that our teachers are awesome. And so typically what they'll do is they'll say, okay, this is your asynchronous time. I'm going to stay logged in. I'll be here. So if you have a question as you're working your problems, you can ask. And so the teacher will tell the student, you don't have to stay logged in, but you can. And it's quite a beautiful thing, actually, in our school. Most teachers are still logged in, and most students are still logged in, even during that work period. But I do think perhaps there is a little bit of misunderstanding, because I've had some parents contact me and saying that it's just ridiculous that students are sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day. So I want you to know that your child does not have to be sitting in front of their computer all day. They can walk away. There is 12 minutes of screen break time built in. This is not asynchronous learning time. It is a complete break, and we urge our students and our staff to take that break time, to get up, to stretch, to walk around. I've even had students be able to earn masks for showing me the things that they do during this time, which has been really cool. My favorite one was the student was at the beach. So that is a positive thing, I guess, during universal remote learning. You don't even have to necessarily be at your own house, and you can still learn. But needless to say, check in on your student. If you feel like your child is just stuck in their room all day long looking at their computer, it's not necessarily because that is the way that the teachers have set things up. So the teachers are posting their plans on their website, so you can see what the synchronous time is, what the synchronous learning content is, and the asynchronous learning. Just check in with your student. This is definitely a partnership during universal remote learning. The teachers are providing these opportunities, but then the students really have to also buy in to the way the teacher has set things up, and then adhere to that. And sometimes that is where we need our our parents to step in and get your child to walk away, to step away, to take a break. But I do think it's a beautiful thing that our teachers and our students are so connected that oftentimes they're just working asynchronously while the computer is still on. So in summary, during universal remote learning, the class periods are shorter. We absolutely have less time. Therefore, teachers are having to prioritize standards. They're having to prioritize those learning objectives. It is not possible for teachers to teach the exact same way they did last year. It is not possible for the teachers to teach everything that they have taught in previous years. That cannot be the expectation. It cannot happen. There's not enough time. The teachers have had to really work hard at figuring out what can I drop, because that's a very difficult thing, but they have to. And so if you've had students that have had a teacher in previous years and things seem different, things are different. So please reach out to your teacher and ask those kind of questions. I'm sure they're happy to answer what it is that they've had to cut out of this unit and why they made those decisions. That's what our PLCs work on, and that's what our teachers are adjusting to. And it's more difficult in some classes than others. Classes that are skill-based, our teachers are struggling more in those classes with trying to figure out what it is that they could possibly, take out of their curriculum. One of the other things that was a big change is that we were asked to not give additional homework that the student would then have to also be working on their computer and working into the evening. So that's a big shift as well, that there should not be as much homework during universal remote learning. And probably the bigger issue that I've really heard concerns about is that homework is no longer allowed to be graded. It is not a grade in the grade book. That was a district expectation for teachers to follow this year. And so while I've heard a lot of concern from parents and students about that, your teachers don't have an option right now. Homework is not going to be a grade in the grade book during universal remote learning. It is still very important. Homework has a place, and students need to do it because that helps the student learn and that helps the teacher know how the student is doing formatively. So I know that's a challenge to continue to do your homework every day when it's not being graded, but I just implore you, students, keep doing your homework, keep doing it well, keep doing it to the best of your ability, because if you don't, then that summative grade will end up suffering. So again, the district developed universal remote learning guidance. This is a very large document that the district created. It's over 140 pages, but I do encourage you, if you would like to go find that on the district website. And the district grading guidance is found on pages 53 through 56. And again, it was guidance that was really for all schools. So during pre-planning, Alfredo High School teachers, department chairs, teacher leaders, and administrators worked collaboratively for many, many hours to process these changes, to refine these changes, and to get it in language that we all could understand and that we could follow. So again, the district language you can find on page 53 through 56, but the Alpharetta way is our common syllabus, and each of you should have access to the common syllabus. Your teachers should have sent that to you. It should be on their website, but that's a big piece of what I'm going to go over now. And I do want to read this statement because I think this statement is really probably the most important statement for you to understand how universal remote learning is going to go. So during universal remote learning, for a student to earn a final grade in a course, students must complete 80% of the graded summative assignments or assessments. If they do not earn at least a 70 on a summative assignment or assessment, students may participate in 3 recovery opportunities until at least a 70 is achieved. An incomplete will be entered into the Infinite Campus for a summative assessment or assignment that is not turned in. If the original assignment grade is over a 70, students may recover the work one time within 1 week of the return date of the assignment. All requests for recovery of work with an original grade above a 70 must be initiated by the student within 1 week. Recovery options for each summative assessment are determined by each department and course team. So I do know that there's lots of communication amongst parents in the community and the district questioning how universal remote grading is going and how this particularly is being implemented. So I want you to understand where we came upon this interpretation of how we would implement this. The district said 80% of the assignments had to be completed. That's not up for debate. 80% of graded assessments have to be completed in order for a student to earn a grade in the course. If they don't do that, it's an incomplete. The 70% is because in the district guidance, it says the student has achieved mastery. What does mastery mean? Well, we decided that mastery meant passing, because in high school you have to earn at least a 70 to get credit for a course. So that is where the 70% was derived. And again, some may say that that's not quite mastery, but you get credit for a course and you can move on if you get a 70. So that is where we decided on the 70. So students that earn a 70 are already showing mastery and therefore don't really need to recover the assignment because they've already achieved mastery. Therefore, that is why those students will only get that one opportunity to try to improve their grade. They don't really need to do that because they've already achieved mastery, but we wanted it to be a little more equitable since other students that didn't get to a 70 would still be able to have a couple of attempts to get to a 70. I also want to make sure that our families know that we have a wide variety of content areas in this school. We have IB classes, AP classes, we have performance art classes, math classes, science classes, on-level classes, remedial classes, honors classes. Just the gamut is amazing. And therefore, there's all sorts of different ways that teachers grade. Performance assessments are sometimes how teachers grade. There are traditional assessments still as well. But for some teachers, when they say that they're going to do a recovery opportunity, that does not mean that the student is going to get the exact same test again, or even a test that is written similarly. And that's not a requirement. Teachers have different ways that they can offer a recovery opportunity. For example, some teachers do test corrections so that if a student missed an answer, if they go back and answer it correctly, do some research, explain why they missed the question, then they can get partial credit back for that question. Perfectly fine. That's a way that a PLC decides to do it. That is fine. But they will communicate that on their course syllabus. Some teachers will create a whole different test that is very similar, but that just has different questions that assess the same standard, and they give that to the student after the student has come in for additional help with the teacher, the RISE sessions. That's a fine option as well. Another example could be that a teacher only invites the student to come back in and reassess on the particular standards that the student got wrong the first time, which again is perfectly acceptable and makes sense, because why would the student need to be reassessed on questions that they've already taken? So there are different ways that teachers can offer recovery opportunities. They work with their department chair, they work with their department administrator, and if need be, they work with me as well. But please, if you have any concerns about that process, start with the teacher. Ask the teacher how they do their recovery, and really your students should be doing that. Please encourage your students to advocate for themselves, to ask those questions, to ask for a recovery assignment if they need it. Our students are growing up. They need to get prepared for going off on their own. And so it is such a great skill for the student to really reach out to the teacher themselves first. So I encourage that to happen. But of course, if you need additional support, the department chair can help. And then if beyond that, then the administrator. But typically our teachers will work those things out on their own. Moving on with the common syllabus, I talked about homework, that for universal remote learning, it was really discouraged that there was additional homework beyond that long day at the computer. And so we did a little compromise, because our teachers that teach courses that are still going to have national assessments or international assessments just really felt hard pressed that they weren't going to be able to teach all the content that their students were still going to be held accountable for. So we did create a homework calendar for our AP and IB students that is every other day. I think I have it in here. Yep. That is every other day We call it A day, B day. It depends on what that student has for their lunch class. We thought students could understand that. I do believe that has been working well. We agreed that at the 6-week grading period, which is this Friday, so next week we will reconvene and we'll assess whether or not we feel like we need to add that opportunity to all other courses, any other courses. We'll get feedback from our IB and AP teachers about how that worked. So as we move into the next 6-week grading period, we may offer some homework opportunities, so you may see your students having some additional homework. So stay tuned about that, and certainly we'll post that calendar on the teacher website if we do add that. Attendance. Again, teachers are taking attendance during that synchronous portion of the class period. That is an expectation. If there's an extenuating circumstance and the student is not able to participate in a synchronous portion of a class, that does happen. We all know technology issues happen. Just reach out to the teacher and let them know, and then if there's a need for a parent note, we'll let you know. But for the most part, that is how we're taking attendance for students who are virtual, and that's how we'll continue doing that. Parent notes to request an excused absence. That is an electronic process this year, and the form for parents to submit that request is on our AHS website under attendance. It's a pretty cool process that we'll probably keep even when we come back face-to-face. So final exams. This was an option for schools, and Alfredo High School has opted to have final exams this semester in all courses. Final exams will count 20% of the student's overall semester grade. But here is potentially a positive. During universal remote learning, if a student completes 100% of the graded assignments and ends with a passing grade, the student can exempt the final exam. I'm going to read that again for 2 reasons. I have typos, which is terrible, but also because I want our students to really hear this. During URL only, if a student completes 100% of the graded assignments, which are all summative, and the student ends with an overall passing grade, so a 70 or above, the student can exempt the final exam. So that is a goal. That is a huge goal. Any student can exempt finals. Normally at Alfredo High School, only seniors get to exempt final exams during their 2nd semester of their senior year. So this is quite an opportunity for students, and it's our way of really encouraging our students to complete all of those assignments. If you'll recall earlier, the common syllabus stated, and the district advocated and stated that if a student completes 80% of those assignments, then the student can still earn a grade for the course. But if you only complete 80% of the assignment, students, you're still going to have to take the final exam. So we really encourage our students to stay working each week all along the course of universal remote learning, get all those assignments turned in on time, and then you will be exempt from the final. I do want to really reiterate, mostly for our new families, that we do have something called RISE here at Alfredo High School, which is an acronym for Reteaching, Instructional Support, and Enrichment. This is an opportunity that all of our teachers schedule for students that need some additional help, and based on the subject that a student might need help in, those teachers at least guarantee that one RISE session on that day, and you can see the schedule here. But one reason that it is really important is that part of our recovery policy is often linked to the student being willing to participate in that RISE help session. So I know at a lot of middle schools, they just call them help sessions. We call them RISE here. So in order to take advantage of the retake opportunities that are being offered on summative assessments, students are required to go to that help session. So parents, please be sure that you do check out your teacher's syllabus and their website to find out the particular rise time of that teacher and encourage your student to take advantage of that extra help session. The rationale there, we don't really see why a student would retake an assessment before getting extra help and understanding what it is that they missed the first time. I already talked about homework, so I'll move on there. So that's the big picture for curriculum night. And normally I would be stopping this presentation here and telling you to go on and go visit your teachers and go see their videos. But I know what's on your mind, a lot of you, all of you probably, is wondering how are things going to go once students start coming back to school. So the curriculum night portion, the instructional portion of tonight is really concluded, and now I'll transition to talking about how things are going to go in phase 3. Right now we're in phase 1 of the transition plan, which really is some of our special education classes are already happening. Students are already coming, but for the majority of our population, it just opened up the opportunity for teachers to have some one-on-one appointments with students who were in need. So we've had a little bit of that going on. We will continue the one-on-one opportunity during phase 3 because a student might have a need to be on campus with a faculty member on a day that is not their assigned day to be on campus. So that would still have to be an appointment if the student is here on a day that isn't their assigned day. This is the reopening matrix that the superintendent has posted for all of us with the target dates and the criteria for each of the phases. So we are headed into phase 3 on Monday. And then phase 4, the target date is October 5th. And then the target date for full opportunity, 5 days a week for students, is October 14th. And again, you can see what those criteria are related to COVID cases. And we'll move forward because it looks like we're coming back to school on Monday, September 21st. And it's going to be based on a student's last name. So this is a methodical phased approach. So next week, we'll only have 25% of students on our campus on any given day. Students have been broken into 4 groups based on a student's last name. I sent out the survey today where you can make your selection, parents, to let us know if you plan to send your child back to school. So it is important to note that parents and students still have the choice to remain virtual through all of these phases. But if you're coming back to school, it's going to be based on your last name, and we're going to provide students with different colored lanyards based on the group that they are in. So that will indicate to us which students are supposed to be here on which days. So it's going to be really important, again, for those of you new to Alfredo High School, all of our students have to wear a student ID visible each day, and then the lanyard will also be required to be visible each day. Masks. So students and staff are required to wear masks each and every day. I'm going to wear my mask for this portion of our presentation because I do want you to hear the difference, because our teachers are now going to have to wear masks as they're teaching your children. Teachers are required to wear masks at school, but they haven't been doing that when they've been teaching your classes because they're alone in their classroom and they were allowed to take their masks off. So now that we're moving into phase 3, teachers will have some students that are in their classrooms in front of them, while they also have 75% of their students still sitting at home virtually. So our teachers will be required now to wear masks in their classroom. So it is going to be a little different. This is going to be more challenging for our teachers, but it's also probably going to be a little more challenging to the students at home because sometimes it's not as clear to hear the person who is wearing the mask. Students will also be required to wear masks every day. Our teachers will receive extra disposable masks for students just in case a student drops one or forgets one. We'll always have those masks as a backup to give to our students. And students will be required to wear their mask at all times, except when they're in the cafeteria eating, or if they're outside on the patio during lunch eating, they'll be able to remove their mask. One of the things that I want to be, just need your help with, parents, is making sure that the masks that our students wear to school are school appropriate. Just as our dress code, not all things that students wear elsewhere is appropriate for school. Many of our students have probably gotten very lax in what they wear during school, but we're all coming back to school. So the dress code is going back in place. And students, be cautious what you wear on your mask. It has to be appropriate. It cannot be disruptive. And it will be up to the school to determine whether or not your mask is disruptive to the learning process. So parents, check in with your students about their dress as well as the mask they plan to wear. We did have to change our bell schedule a little bit for phase 3. We had to make a few revisions to accommodate for some additional class time for the face-to-face kids, because believe it or not, we don't want teenagers having 12 minutes of downtime unsupervised at the high school. So they will still remain in their classes for a little bit. Once we get to phase 4, we have to have a staggered dismissal after each class. So that's where that 12 minutes is going to help us there as well. Probably one of the strangest things that students are going to have to get used to is the expectation of our hallway directions. So whereas students used to be able to walk out of their classroom and pivot left or pivot right, whichever way was going to be the fastest way for them to get to their next class period, because we have one-way directions, all students are going to be asked to turn in one direction right when they walk out of their classroom and head in that direction. So that's going to be a little challenging. But I am confident that with the support of our staff and our parents helping their students realize that this is an expectation if they want to come back to school, that we'll all work together and we will figure it out. And who knows, maybe we'll like it and maybe we'll keep it this way, because I do know students complain a lot about how congested our hallways are. So if we're all going in the same direction, maybe we'll get used to it and it'll be great. So you can see here the new bell schedule for phase 3. I'll call your attention to the second column. The second column is the end time for a class period. It's 45 minutes after it starts. That is still going to be the end time for our students who are in the virtual setting. Usually this is when teachers have their asynchronous time going. Students are working on their classwork or maybe even starting homework. And this is when our students at home get their screen break. But the students that are at school face-to-face are still going to remain in the classroom with their teacher for 6 more minutes. So you'll see that in the third column, this is when the bell will ring to indicate that our students who are at school in the classroom can transition to their next class period. I'll explain that to the students as they come in each day next week, but for those of you at home, it'll still be that same bell schedule that you're used to following. We did have to make a little adjustment to advisement. In the anchor time period, it's actually going to end 1 minute sooner, but that's not a huge deal. Anchor time off and off-campus privilege. This is beginning right away. So many of our rising juniors and seniors have already filled out the application for anchor time and for off-campus privilege. It's due tomorrow. If you haven't done that, please turn that in. You can find that information in your email. For those of you who are new to Alfredo High School, anchor time for most students is a study hall time. It's a time where students go and sit with a teacher silently and work on classwork, homework, study. That's for the majority of students. Some students will be asked to go into a remediation class period because their test scores show that they are having gaps in their learning in reading or math, and it's additional help time for those students. For upperclassmen, if you're off track for graduation, you're required to go into a remediation class to get back on track, so credit recovery. But for the majority of our underclassmen, it's a study hall, and for the majority of our upperclassmen, they get the opportunity for an off-campus lunch. So students actually do get to leave campus. It's a very special privilege that only Alfredo High School has. We earned this through a request through our school governance council, and because of the way our students have handled this very maturely, for the most part, we've been able to keep it. Last year we only did it 2 days a week. We were moving to 3 days a week this year because we shortened it to 30 minutes. I've decided to go ahead and move to 4 days a week, and I did want to explain the rationale for that. It's because the more students that are not here for lunch, the more opportunity we have for social distancing. So we will not have most of our juniors and seniors in the cafeteria during their lunch periods because they'll have the off-campus privilege, and then therefore we'll be able to spread out our freshmen, sophomores, and other upperclassmen that are still here much further apart. And so that's a good thing. I do strongly want to encourage our upperclassmen to go home during your off-campus privilege as opposed to going out to eat. So that's my request. You're off campus, but go home. Also, phase 3 parking applications are due tomorrow as well. Save the date. This information will be coming out in my morning message tomorrow, as well as via email. But usually the Saturday before school starts, we have a group of staff that are up here to give out IDs, lanyards, and the Alpharetta famous stickers. We have stickers for everything, indicating what privileges students have and what their course schedule is. So this Saturday, 10th through 12th grade students will be invited to drive up to the school between 10 and 2 to pick up your new ID, to pick up your lanyard that'll be colored based on your last name. If you have a dual enrollment class, you'll get your dual enrollment sticker. If you have a virtual class, you'll get your virtual sticker. If you're a student that leaves campus and comes back later, then you'll get a flex sticker. And then you'll also have the opportunity to complete the emergency sticker, the emergency dismissal waiver. In case we do have an emergency, parents can determine that they trust their child to get home the way that they need to and not have to check them out. We learned this in Snowmageddon. We've been doing it ever since. So you can get your emergency sticker as well. This will just help our students be able to leave campus in a more timely manner next week. Again, you can see the color of your lanyard based on your last name. I've talked a little bit about the hallway, that's going to be a strange new thing. Our stairwells will be one way. Our hallways will be one way on each side. U-turns are going to be permissible at the ends of the academic hallway. That sounds silly, but we will be enforcing that so that our students are all headed in the same direction. Morning routine, what's that going to look like? So our building is going to open a little later during phase 3. So whereas we used to open at 7:30, we will be opening at 7:55. So please don't drop your child off at school. Our students don't drive here prior to that time because we do not want social gathering. That is the reason for it. The later that students are here, the less opportunity for social gathering, which is what students do in the morning. They get here, they go to the cafeteria normally, and they hang out, which has been fine. But during this time, we want that less. We don't want students here gathering. The bus doors will open as soon as our buses arrive. All those students will head to the cafeteria, but students not riding a bus, arriving between 7:55 and 8:15, you won't walk through the front doors. We're going to ask that you walk around the side of the building and walk through the back of the cafeteria. For those of you who were here last year, that's how we did it for Late Start Wednesdays. That's how we'll do it now. The students that will be coming through the front doors are going to be only those students who have appointments. They either have an appointment with a teacher for a one-to-one session or a RISE session, or perhaps even because of a club. But their teacher would have to log that information so that our front office assistant knows to let the student in. Breakfast will be served until 8:15. And I didn't write it here, but breakfast is free this semester. Both breakfast and lunch will be free to all students this semester. Lunches, what will lunches look like? This is probably one of the most common questions that I get. Again, lunches are free this semester for all students. Students will be eating in the cafeteria and out on the patio. We will be encouraging students to eat outside, actually. We have tables, we have the grass stairs, and we will clean and disinfect our tables during lunch. We will have many fewer tables rolled out in the cafeteria. Students will have to sit socially distanced. Sometimes we have students cramming together on those benches, getting real close. That won't be allowed. It'll only be one student per bench and at least one seat in between each student. Probably another strange feeling is that we're going to ask all students who are sitting inside the building to all sit facing the same direction. So all the students will be sitting facing the wall of the cafeteria, so they're not facing each other and having potential any COVID, anything coming out of their mouths at each other. So masks are going to be worn at school at all times except when students are eating. So that is why we'll have students spaced out and facing the same direction if they're eating inside. But I want more outdoor seating. So this is my plea for anyone who wants to help us raise some money. So you see these beautiful benches here. We have about 14 so far, and they're very popular outside. I have a goal to add at least 20 more benches to our outdoor area. If you would like to donate a little or a lot, you could sponsor an entire bench and get your own nameplate for $450. But every little bit counts. So even if you want to just donate $5 to the contribution for us to get more of these picnic tables, please do so. The Alfredo High School Foundation, in partnership with the Environmental Club and Mr. Burton, has supported this project. So you can go to the Alfredo High School Foundation website to donate today, and I will send additional information about that out this week. I know our community has asked and wants to help us, and this is one way that you can help us be able to socially distance more. I do have help here. I want to say thank you to Andrew Bolin and Pam Kelly, who are in here helping me. So I apologize for that delay. Not sure what happened there, but moving right along. So classroom setup. So teachers are busy this week making sure that their classrooms are set up appropriately. They have red tape that they're going to be using, and they will be marking off the areas where they don't want students to sit. Their goal is to maximize the social distancing possibilities in the classroom. We're doing the same thing in the cafeteria and in the media center. Students are going to be encouraged to socially distance to the greatest extent possible. Please reinforce this expectation with your students. To the greatest extent possible. That is what we need to say, because different areas in the building are set up differently. Different classrooms are set up differently. You're going to socially distance very differently in the gym than you would in a small classroom. on the field than you would in a classroom. You're going to socially distance differently in the cafeteria than in a conference room. So please just keep reinforcing we will socially distance to the greatest extent possible at all times. The cleaning protocols. We need your help with this, parents and students. So we are all in this together. And we have to clean up after ourselves. We have to wash our hands often. We have to clean our own surfaces. All of the faculty and staff, we clean up our own workspace each day now. We're going to ask students to do that as well at the end of every class period. We'll provide the paper towels and the cleaner, and we're just going to ask them to clean up their own space. Teachers will have areas marked in their classrooms with red tape that is a no student zone, and also to, again, promote social distancing. Please send your student in with water bottles. Our water fountains are not working. Every student should be drinking out of their own water bottle. And that is going to be something that's real important because we're not going to have our vending machines going. We're trying to limit touch points. Students won't be able to get passes to leave the classroom to go to the vending machine. So all students really need to bring their water with them during the day. We also strongly encourage students to bring their own hand sanitizer and use it often throughout the day. Don't touch your face. We're going to do the no touch your face challenge every day. Teachers will have hand sanitizer in their classroom, and hand sanitizing stations have been installed all throughout the building for student use. Our bathrooms no longer have air dryers. They have paper towel dispensers now for more hygiene and safety. However, we do realize that students will get sick. So first and foremost, do not come to school. Students, don't come to school if you feel sick or if you have a fever. That's a big one here because we have a lot of overachieving students. So do not put your teacher at risk, put your peers at risk because you feel like you have to be the overachiever and come to school and take a test or give a presentation. We will offer grace. We don't want you here when you're sick. Okay, so that's the number one important thing. But if you happen to be at school and you get sick, we have an isolation room. Parents, students who are exhibiting any symptoms while at school will be removed to the isolation room, and you'll be required to come pick up the student. Fulton County does require random temperature checks. It's been occurring for staff, but it's also going to occur for students. So if your student is pulled for a random temperature check and it turns out that your student does have a fever, then your student will be escorted to the isolation room and you'll have to come pick them up. Our visitor process is limited. We will have very few visitors. All visitors do have to be approved by the administration, and all visitors have to go through the process of screening and temperature check. We will have clubs. They're actually able to start this week, but there are some guidelines, and you can see that only 19 students maximum can be inside the building with their sponsor. For outdoor activities, more students can be part of a club, but please go through your sponsor, students, so that you know whether or not you're allowed to be on campus. All of our sponsors have to go through training, and if it is an extracurricular activity or club, all the students have to go through screening, which they're asked a lot of questions, and they also have to be temperature checked. So we have a lot of new protocols in place, so we do want you to know that. Finally, today, I want to give a real big thank you to our School Governance Council, to our PTSA, and to our AHS Foundation. Huge supporters of our school. We could not be the School of Excellence without them. If you haven't already joined PTSA, please do that today. It's a wonderful organization that supports our school. I am sorry for the length of this meeting. but it wasn't just curriculum night. It was also talking about phase 3 and how we're going to keep your child safe when you bring them back to school. I do hope that you now feel like you can make a more informed decision on the survey where they're asking if you're going to send your child back to school for phase 3, 4, or 5. If you have additional questions about that now that you've seen this presentation, you are certainly welcome to email me, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I'm going to go way back to the beginning of this presentation just as a quick reminder, because now we want you to go and visit your teacher's videos. So go to the website, go under staff, find the directory, then find your teacher's name, then click on the view website next to your teacher's name. That should take you to the teacher's main page, and that is where you will see the big red button, Curriculum Night 2020. You'll click here. I wish you an enjoyable evening of getting to know your child's teachers. Thank you so much for your support and all you do. Go Raiders.